Sri Lanka, a beautiful island nation located just south of India, has a rich history and diverse culture. Its strategic location in the Indian Ocean has made it a crossroads of trade and migration for centuries. However, beneath its scenic landscapes lies a complex social fabric, woven with both harmony and tension. The country's population is primarily made up of two major ethnic groups, the Sinhalas and the Tamils. Understanding the roots of Sri Lanka's ethnic conflict requires a closer look at these communities and their historical interactions. Let's begin by exploring the demographic makeup of this island nation. Sinhala community forms about 74% of Sri Lanka's population and is predominantly Buddhist. They are mainly concentrated in the southern and central parts of the island. On the other hand, the Tamil community makes up around 18% of the population and is mostly Hindu, with their primary settlements in the northern and eastern regions. These two groups have distinct languages, religions, and cultural traditions, which have shaped their identities over generations. The coexistence of these communities has not always been peaceful, and historical grievances have played a significant role in shaping the nation's destiny. Sri Lanka's colonial past under the British left deep imprints on its society. When the country gained independence in 1948, the new government was largely dominated by the Sinhala majority. This shift in power dynamics set the stage for future tensions. The colonial administration had previously favored Tamils in government jobs and education, but post-independence policies reversed this trend. The seeds of ethnic discord were sown during this transitional period, as the Sinhalas sought to assert their dominance in the newly independent nation. One of the most significant policies that fueled ethnic tensions was the Sinhala-Only Act of 1956. This law made Sinhala the sole official language of Sri Lanka, effectively sidelining the Tamil language and its speakers. The act was seen by many Tamils as a direct attack on their identity and rights. It not only created barriers in government employment and education for Tamils, but also deepened their sense of alienation. The policy marked a turning point, intensifying the divide between the two communities. Following the Sinhala-Only Act, government policies increasingly favored the Sinhala majority in public sector jobs and educational opportunities. Tamils found themselves at a disadvantage, with limited access to prestigious positions and higher education. This systemic discrimination fostered resentment and a growing sense of injustice among the Tamil population. The feeling of being treated as second-class citizens became widespread, setting the stage for organized resistance. As the years passed, Tamils increasingly felt alienated within their own country. The combination of language barriers, limited job prospects, and restricted educational access led to widespread frustration. Many Tamils began to question their place in Sri Lankan society, feeling excluded from national life. This growing alienation would soon give rise to demands for greater rights and autonomy, as the community sought to assert its identity and protect its interests. In response to these challenges, Sri Lankan Tamils began to organize and demand equal rights. Their initial calls focused on fair treatment, language recognition, and access to government jobs and education. Peaceful protests and political movements emerged, aiming to address the grievances of the Tamil community. However, the government's reluctance to make meaningful concessions only deepened the divide, pushing some Tamils to consider more radical solutions. As peaceful efforts failed to bring about significant change, Tamil nationalism began to gain momentum. The idea of a separate Tamil homeland, known as Tamil Eelam, started to take root among sections of the community. Political leaders and activists argued that only autonomy or independence could guarantee the rights and security of Tamils. This shift marked a new phase in the struggle, as demands for equality evolved into calls for self-determination. Growing frustration among Tamils led to the formation of militant groups. The most prominent among them was the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, or LTTE. Founded in the 1970s, the LTTE quickly became the leading force in the armed struggle for Tamil rights. Their goal was the creation of an independent Tamil state in the north and east of Sri Lanka. The emergence of the LTTE marked a turning point, as the conflict shifted from political agitation to armed confrontation. In the early 1980s, tensions between the Sri Lankan government and the LTTE had escalated into open conflict. The situation deteriorated rapidly, with violent clashes, bombings, and assassinations becoming common. The civil war officially began in 1983, plunging the country into decades of violence and instability. Both sides suffered heavy losses, and the civilian population bore the brunt of the conflict. Civil war had a devastating impact on ordinary Sri Lankans. Thousands of people lost their lives, and many more were forced to flee their homes. Families were separated, communities destroyed, and the economy suffered greatly. The conflict created a humanitarian crisis, with refugees and internally displaced persons struggling to survive. The scars of war would linger long after the fighting stopped. During the height of the Civil War, the LTTE managed to establish control over significant parts of northern and eastern Sri Lanka. They set up their own administrative structures, schools, and even police forces in these areas. The LTTE's rule was marked by strict discipline and a focus on achieving their goal of Tamil Eelam. However, their methods, including the use of child soldiers and suicide bombings, drew international condemnation. Sri Lankan civil war attracted global attention, with many countries and organizations expressing concern over the violence and human rights abuses. The international community called for peace talks and humanitarian aid, but finding a lasting solution proved difficult. The conflict's complexity, rooted in deep-seated ethnic divisions, made it challenging for outsiders to mediate effectively. As a close neighbor with cultural and historical ties to Sri Lanka, India played a significant role in the conflict. India was particularly concerned about the plight of Sri Lankan Tamils, many of whom share ethnic links with Tamils in southern India. The Indian government supported peace initiatives and sought to ensure fair treatment for Tamils, while also maintaining good relations with the Sri Lankan government. 1987, India and Sri Lanka signed the Indo-Sri Lanka Accord, a landmark agreement aimed at ending the conflict. The accord promised devolution of power to Tamil majority areas, granting them greater autonomy. It also paved the way for the deployment of the Indian Peacekeeping Force, IPKF, to help maintain order and support the peace process. The agreement was seen as a major step toward reconciliation, though its implementation faced significant challenges. Following the Indo-Sri Lanka Accord, the Indian Peacekeeping Force was sent to Sri Lanka to enforce the agreement and maintain peace. However, the IPKF soon found itself caught between the Sri Lankan government and the LTTE. The mission faced fierce resistance from the LTTE, leading to heavy casualties and strained relations between India and both parties in Sri Lanka. Ultimately, the IPKF withdrew, and the conflict continued. A tragic turn of events, Rajiv Gandhi, the Indian Prime Minister who signed the Indo-Sri Lanka Accord, was assassinated by an LTTE suicide bomber in 1991. This shocking incident underscored the intensity of the conflict and its far-reaching consequences. The assassination strained India's relationship with the LTTE and altered the course of India's involvement in Sri Lanka's affairs. After the withdrawal of the IPKF, the civil war in Sri Lanka intensified. Both the government and the LTTE escalated their military campaigns, leading to more violence and suffering. The conflict dragged on for years, with neither side able to secure a decisive victory. The prolonged war took a heavy toll on the country's infrastructure, economy, and social fabric. Throughout the civil war, various international actors attempted to mediate peace between the Sri Lankan government and the LTTE. Norway, in particular, played a key role in facilitating negotiations. Despite several ceasefires and peace talks, deep mistrust and unresolved issues prevented a lasting settlement. The international community continued to urge both sides to seek a peaceful resolution. As the conflict raged on, reports of human rights violations by both sides emerged. Civilians were caught in the crossfire, and allegations of extrajudicial killings, disappearances, and abuses became widespread. International organizations called for investigations and accountability, but justice remained elusive. The legacy of these abuses continues to affect Sri Lanka's reputation and its efforts at reconciliation. LTTE became infamous for its use of unconventional tactics, including suicide bombings and targeted assassinations. They also recruited child soldiers and used civilians as human shields. These actions drew widespread condemnation and led to the LTTE being designated as a terrorist organization by many countries. The group's methods contributed to the prolongation and brutality of the conflict. Sri Lankan government responded to the LTTE's tactics with military offensives and security crackdowns. Security forces were accused of heavy-handed measures, including indiscriminate shelling and mass detentions. The government justified its actions as necessary to restore order and protect national unity, but critics argued that these measures often harmed innocent civilians and fueled further resentment. In 2009, the Sri Lankan government launched a massive military offensive against the LTTE. The operation was intense and swift, resulting in the defeat of the LTTE and the death of its leader, Velupillai Prabhakaran. The government declared victory in May 2009, officially ending the decades-long civil war. The final phase of the conflict was marked by heavy casualties and widespread destruction. At the end of the civil war, Sri Lanka faced the enormous task of rebuilding and reconciling its divided society. The government promised reconstruction and reconciliation, aiming to heal the wounds of conflict. However, the legacy of war, including unresolved grievances and human rights concerns, continued to cast a shadow over the country's future. The Tamil minority, in particular, remained vocal in their demands for justice and autonomy. Post-war Sri Lanka saw significant efforts to rebuild infrastructure, resettle displaced persons, and restore normalcy. International aid and government programs focused on housing, education, and healthcare in war-affected areas. While progress was made, challenges remained, especially in ensuring that all communities benefited equally from reconstruction efforts. Despite reconstruction, true reconciliation proved elusive. Many Tamils felt that their concerns were not adequately addressed, and reports of ongoing discrimination persisted. Efforts to promote national unity faced obstacles, as deep-seated mistrust and memories of conflict lingered. Achieving lasting peace required more than physical rebuilding. It demanded genuine dialogue and mutual respect. The end of the Civil War did not bring an end to human rights concerns. Allegations of war crimes, enforced disappearances, and lack of accountability continued to surface. International organizations and Tamil activists called for investigations and justice for victims. The government's response was often defensive, citing national security and sovereignty. Even after the war, the Tamil minority continued to demand greater autonomy and recognition of their rights. Political parties and civil society groups advocated for devolution of power to Tamil majority regions. These demands were rooted in a desire for self-governance and protection of cultural identity, reflecting the long history of marginalization. After the war, India continued to play a supportive role in Sri Lanka's recovery. India provided aid for reconstruction, supported the rehabilitation of displaced Tamils, and encouraged democratic stability. At the same time, India sought to maintain balanced relations with both the Sinhala majority and the Tamil minority, mindful of its own domestic considerations. India and Sri Lanka have strong economic ties, with trade and tourism playing key roles in their relationship. Both countries benefit from the exchange of goods, services, and people. Tourism, in particular, has helped foster greater understanding and cultural exchange, contributing to the healing process after years of conflict. Beyond economics, India and Sri Lanka share deep cultural ties. Festivals, art, and religious traditions are celebrated across both countries, reflecting centuries of interaction. Cultural cooperation initiatives have helped bridge divides and promote mutual respect, playing a vital role in post-war reconciliation. Given their proximity in the Indian Ocean, India and Sri Lanka cooperate closely on maritime security. Joint efforts to combat piracy, smuggling, and illegal fishing have strengthened trust and stability in the region. Maritime cooperation is a key pillar of their bilateral relationship, ensuring safe and open sea routes. India faces the delicate task of balancing its relations with both the Sinhala majority and the Tamil minority in Sri Lanka. This balancing act is influenced by domestic politics in India, especially in Tamil Nadu, as well as broader strategic interests. India's approach emphasizes dialogue, support for democratic institutions, and respect for Sri Lanka's sovereignty. The Sri Lankan Civil War offers important lessons about the dangers of ethnic division and the need for inclusive governance. It highlights how policies that marginalize minorities can fuel resentment and violence. The experience underscores the importance of dialogue, power sharing, and respect for diversity in building lasting peace. Despite the end of the Civil War, Sri Lanka continues to face challenges related to reconciliation, justice, and minority rights. Addressing these issues is essential for sustainable peace and development. The journey toward healing is ongoing, requiring commitment from all sections of society and support from the international community. Ethnic conflict refers to disputes and violence between different ethnic groups within a country. In Sri Lanka, the conflict between the Sinhalas and Tamils was rooted in historical grievances, discrimination, and competing nationalisms. Understanding ethnic conflict is key to analyzing the causes and consequences of the Sri Lankan Civil War. Tamil Eelam was the proposed independent state that the LTTE and many Tamils aspired to create in the north and east of Sri Lanka. The demand for Tamil Eelam was driven by a desire for self-determination, protection of cultural identity, and an end to discrimination. The quest for Tamil Eelam was central to the Civil War and remains a powerful symbol for many Tamils. Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam, or LTTE, was a militant organization that led the armed struggle for an independent Tamil state. Known for its military prowess and unconventional tactics, the LTTE played a central role in the Civil War. Its defeat in 2009 marked the end of the armed conflict, but its legacy continues to shape Sri Lankan politics. Indo-Sri Lanka Accord was a 1987 agreement between India and Sri Lanka aimed at resolving the ethnic conflict. It promised devolution of power to Tamil majority areas and led to the deployment of the Indian peacekeeping force. While the accord was a significant diplomatic effort, its implementation faced major obstacles and ultimately did not bring lasting peace. Reconciliation refers to the process of healing divisions and building trust between former adversaries. In Sri Lanka, reconciliation involves addressing the grievances of the Tamil minority, ensuring justice for victims, and promoting inclusive governance. True reconciliation is essential for lasting peace and national unity. Displacement occurs when people are forced to leave their homes due to conflict, violence, or disaster. During the Sri Lankan Civil War, hundreds of thousands of people were displaced, losing their homes and livelihoods. Addressing the needs of displaced persons is a critical part of post-war recovery and reconciliation. Human rights are the basic rights and freedoms to which all people are entitled. During the Sri Lankan Civil War, both sides were accused of violating human rights, including extrajudicial killings and torture. Protecting human rights is essential for justice, reconciliation, and the prevention of future conflicts. Devolution of power means transferring authority from the central government to regional or local governments. In Sri Lanka, devolution was proposed as a way to address Tamil demands for autonomy and reduce ethnic tensions. Effective devolution can help ensure that all communities have a voice in governance. Power sharing is a political arrangement in which different groups share authority and participate in decision-making. In divided societies like Sri Lanka, power sharing can help prevent conflict by ensuring that all communities are represented. It is a key principle in efforts to build inclusive and stable governance. Story of Sri Lanka's ethnic conflict and civil war is a powerful reminder of the importance of inclusion, justice, and dialogue in diverse societies. The journey from division to reconciliation is long and challenging, but it is essential for peace and prosperity. By learning from the past and embracing diversity, Sri Lanka can build a brighter future for all its people.